Guys, I'm back with my assistant. Say hi.
Hi!
And I'm going to start, we're going to try and figure out the breech today. So, the breech, so we've got the bolt prepared. I've got foam glued in here just a little bit so that we can get the shell to press up against it properly. But this, as I said in the other video, this isn't the final bolt. The design here of the breech is so that the shells will hit it like this, and they'll get pushed in, straighten out, and then hold flat. And then the front end here is it's like the sledge fire one, where it's got like a flat area for the shells to press against, and then they are held in place just from behind by the bolt, like so. The reason I needed the foam here is because you can actually see it right there in this gap. That was from a failed ejector design. It doesn't affect performance though. It needs to press the shell enough that it's got an airtight seal when this is all the way forward. So, you know, let's start. Let's take this screw port out for starters so that I can actually push this all the way up. All the way forward with the bolt looks to be at this ridge. That ridge, it's hard to see. That one. So, but I'm going to clear that out just so that we can make sure there's no bad interactions there. And then the shell, so the bolt, actually the back of the shell is pretty much going to have to line up with that ridge as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through this ribbing here. This is pretty much going to have to go entirely. I'm going to Dremel out the top of this a little bit so there's a little more room for the bolt. Alright, maybe that's enough. I just cleared a bit here so that the bolt can slide under this a little easier. It doesn't have to be much, just a little. So, and I'm having a problem here. I got to take this stuff out. We want to have as wide of an opening to get to the breech as possible, so that the wider that this can slide in, the easier to be able to make sure it always chambers properly. And that's pretty important. Like the reliability of the shotgun is actually pretty dependent on the ability of the shell to just go in the chamber every time. This is cleared out. This should slide. Why is that not coming back? That's weird. I have never had problems with the bolt interacting, oddly enough.
What's this?
It's a sucker.
White.
Yeah, it's a white sucker.
White sucky.
Okay. I mean, it shouldn't necessarily overlap that much. The shell will determine how much overlap there is. This is sort of the fatal flaw of this design, in my opinion. You have to, when you fire it after you've primed, you have to hold it forward and make sure that the seal is as good as possible. I hold it forward or you won't get as good of seal and you lose range pretty directly, actually. I have I've marked up the breech here. This black line that's just under it is where it needs to be glued in. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On the 10th rail or 10th ridge on the Picatinny rail is where this will get glued in. That might be helpful information. When this sits totally straight, it is not touching the side of the shell in the front. Only the opening cup, or whatever it is hitting that. What that means is that we'll have to put some kind of a filler material right in here to get it to hold steady. I have a sheet of black foam that I'm going to use. It's a strangely great modding tool to just have a sheet of foam. Let's do it bigger. So just pour some glue, get some foam laid down. Okay. and then we'll test this. Because everything's got to be centered, especially, add a little more. See, look at this, so handy. You just stack it, and then you get a known thickness. This is, you know, 1/8 of an inch or whatever it is. Actually, it's not known to me because I don't know how thick that foam is, but when I was using the 1/8 inch foam, I actually used that to pad all of this area and stuff so that there was no sticky little bits that could catch the lifter and things, or shells going in and stuff. So I'll probably have to go get some more for this mod as well. I don't think that's necessary, but I would recommend it. So look at that. See how cool that is. Okay. Yep, okay. This is in. I mean, we can also measure, but I think that that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat this in hot glue. Yep, that's right, guys. This is a hot glue mod. It's very precision here. Get it glued good. So I'm eyeballing the straightness of it like this. And it looks to be not totally straight, which is bad. This is one of the imprecise parts of the mod, but it's pretty critical that this works out right. I don't know how to express the knowledge that I have that makes this possible to you guys, so you'll just have to bear with me as I just go for it. Back to it. So I have I cut out the side. I think that this is a part of this mod that should happen now when you're doing the bolt and the breech, because as I just discovered, I think my breech might be too far forward a little bit. So probably actually should be placed at maybe the 11th or between 10 and 11 on the rail numbers. But so we can actually see now, finally, what is going on here. This is, see my hands, it's all just, there are 2 screws in the shell right now. There's one here and one here, just to make sure it doesn't come apart. So pretty much what happens is the shell gets spit into here at the very back of the prime, and then when you prime it forward, let's turn this a little bit so that this can be vertical. So when you prime it forward, it kicks the shell up, so you can see that. And then you have to make sure that this is lined up. This is my problem. I think the breech right now might be too high, and it might be too far back. My shell is not lining up. So what isn't happening here is it's not sliding all the way forward, and I think that is because the breech itself is too high. I figured out what went wrong with my breech installation. I was installing it with only 1/2 of the shell, and I don't know if this is just the nature of the X-Zeus bolt sled or not, but it has a tendency to tip itself this way, like upwards, and so I thought that the breech had to sit higher than it actually does. So you have to make sure that you're holding this as though it's closed in both shells. I actually glued it in when it was sandwiched between both sides, just to be sure. And then the other problem I'm having right now is my shells are they're spitting up too high and they're catching right here. Either heat this up and warp it upwards so that it's got more angle, or to add some kind of half pipe shape like this that extends a little further out. Guys, I'm just gonna wrap this up real quick on the breech. So I took my phone off the tripod, I'm sorry guys. So what you can see here is a small sliver of the ABS pipe that I use for the magazines. This is a slightly wider part. You know, I have this that's got these flanges or whatever they are. And so I just cut a strip out of it, which pretty much consisted of pressing the knife down, cutting it off. And then I just glued that over the lip of the breech inside. And then what I'm going to do eventually is epoxy this smooth. Already it's feeding better than it was. So this is going to be awkward. So now it's shoving them in just because it has something to hit up against, I guess. So that's working. I don't know what's next exactly. Probably the installing the magazine tube, because that has to come soon. Anyway, I think that about covers the breech. Thanks for watching, guys.